The first thing you should know about my friend Andrew is that he has 2 brothers. He's the middle child, the golden mean child. But both his brothers are pretty great in their own rights. As brothers do, they've had their differences and struggles, but they mostly get along well and like each other. I'm certain they'll always be there to take care of and defend one another if the situation requires. The next thing you should know about Andrew is that he also has 2 unofficial, adopted, honorary brothers, my boys. They have looked up to him, leaned on him, and hung out with him for 10 years. And it turns out they're ready to defend him too when required. Recently, one of my sons heard a bit of lighthearted but critical feedback about this podcast, and he got a little defensive. Of Andrew. I believe the line was not, "That's my mother," but instead, "That guy is like a brother to me."
The first thing you should know about my friend Mrs. Filholm is that she's a communicator. She spends a lot of time thinking about ideas like branding, audience, and reach. Sometimes Mrs. Filholm communicates via a microphone. Sometimes she puts together a press packet or an annual review. But in every job she takes, Mrs. Filholm finds herself in a comms role because she's always got something to say. The next thing you should know is that Mrs. Filholm gets more mileage out of Instagram than any 20-something, bikini-wearing, selfie-snapping, home-squeezed juice-sipping influencer I know. Give her a follow. You can find her at Lisa Lane Filholm on Instagram. Welcome to Half My Age, a weekly show in which a 25-year-old adult and a 50-year-old child help each other make sense of the world.
I do what? From Instagram?
You get more mileage out of Instagram than
what does that mean?
Any 20-something bikini-wearing, selfie-snapping, home-squeezed, juice-sipping influencer I know.
Sweet run, bro. Talk about communication. That's a good lick. Look good for you. That's funny. What does that mean? I get more mileage out of it.
It means you're always on your Instagram.
Oh,
game.
sorry. Okay, too much. I can dial that shit back. I don't care.
You just follow your heart.
I guess.
You just keep on keeping on.
Well, I feel like Instagram is cute. It's like, well, when I started, it really was kind of hard to advertise at all on Instagram. And it's still a little bit, it's not. It's really, my feed is filled up with ads. But I ignore them. And I kind of think it's cute because of the visual.
It is. It's, if I'm going to waste time on social media, I'd prefer to waste it on Instagram over Facebook. But probably Twitter over Instagram. I do love short, quippy tweets.
I love short, quippy anything.
Mm-hmm.
Don't like Twitter because I can't. It's too noisy.
To me, the difference between Instagram and Twitter in terms of the text that people post is Instagram is too cutesy for me.
I gotcha.
It's a little too.
Whatever you just said, the little lip run you did about bikini, whatever. Yeah, it's posting pictures of your LaCroix.
That's right.
By the way, do you want to know how hipster I am? You know how the LaCroix thing has taken over the Instagram and gotten to be the hippest beverage?
Mm-hmm.
Ask my students from 2004 through 2012 what drink I drank in the classroom. If it wasn't Diet Coke or Diet Dr. Pepper, there were big spans in there of La Croix. And they would ask me, "Ms. Filholm, please, I'm thirsty. Can I have a drink of your La Croix?" I was famous for my LaCroix before it was, seriously, before it was cool. It was cheap back then, Andrew.
I got a hot tip for you.
What?
The secret Costco generic LaCroix, super good. Big fan. I got a refrigerator full of it.
Could you please pick me up? Okay, I have no reason to go to Costco except for discreet things like that doesn't seem worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I just need you to send you with a list.
I don't know how in the hell I'm going to do that on the motorcycle.
Oh, that's how you're going to Costco? You're bringing back packs of... Oh, you mean getting it up here? I'll come down and get it from you. It's not about so much the delivery. It's just I don't want to go to Costco.
I can't believe that. Everyone wants to go to Costco.
I do not.
That's where the costs go.
However, speaking of Costco, you once told me early in this podcast about some screen wipes you had from Costco, which no one got me for Christmas, despite a completely obvious ask. It was past Christmas.
To be fair, I looked for them and they didn't carry them anymore.
That's funny. Okay. Well, that occurred to me. Thank you, Andrew. That's nice. The thought counts. I was at Target recently getting a bunch of things, like a really funny list that I kind of did some thinking about this and thought Target is the store to go. Target, I can get all of these things instead of Home Depot plus.
If you ask Delaney,
Trader
she would
Joe's.
agree. She loves Target, and I don't mind Target either.
I don't mind it. Sometimes I can't get the whatever best version of the thing, but golly, it's sure convenient to go to one store. Also, I feel like I'm getting my steps in.
Yep, big stores.
When I moved back from New York City in my 20s and went into my first Target, it was so funny because in New York City, everything's tiny and small and vertical, right? Up, up, up. And just seeing these like vast, low
Yeah, how even can you have a building with that size footprint?
You felt, it was actually disorienting after being in New York City back in the 90s. There's a Target in New York City now, but there didn't used to be. Anyway.
Do you remember, sorry, this is going back to the Instagram thing, but do you remember before we were the #1 anti-homelessness podcast in the country?
I do remember fondly those days.
You remember them fondly back when we were the world's #1 foot fetish podcast?
Yeah, which is more offensive. It's hard to know.
There was a big piece of foot fetish news that came out since we last recorded.
What?
Sure was.
Lay it on me, string bean.
Princess Meghan Markle.
Yes.
On Mother's Day, she posted a pic of baby Archie's little feet.
Oh.
The royal tootsies.
Yeah.
They're on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to do a little foot follow-up because I didn't want to let that audience lapse. It's been a while since we've given them something in the show. I
was also thinking of that this week. That's a very cute and non-offensive way to think about it. Baby feet. Cute.
Baby feet.
Remember when we went paddleboarding a couple of weekends ago and I made you come around to my side of the car and say, Andrew, come and look at this? Mm-hmm. What was I showing you?
You're showing me your disgusting feet.
Because I had done baby foot. And then what did you respond with? Do you remember?
Yeah, I held up my own foot and I showed you 2 blisters of my own.
And I really haven't heard the full story about that. So please tell me what the heck happened that you need baby foot now more than ever, bro.
You know how I like to go on walks.
I do know that.
If I was a personal ad, long walks on the beach would be the very first thing on it.
Yeah. Or long walks anywhere, sometimes in the completely wrong direction.
Sometimes in the wrong direction. And I also like to walk in inappropriate footwear. I like to walk in flip-flops because I like to get my my little flip-flop tan on. I've got some seriously good for the foot people out there. When I was studying abroad, I had a hella good flip-flop tan, and I'm still proud of it. Still trying to get back to that moment today.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's a weird thing to take pride in.
But it really is.
I had a lot of pride in it.
All right.
But I walked a good 4-mile walk in my flip-flops, and I gave myself 2 blisters because my feet aren't quite in walking shape yet this year.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's really right. Sandal transition season is a thing.
We're coming off winter, and the feet have been stuck in shoes. So I had 2 blisters from walking 4 miles in flip-flops.
Just around your neighborhood?
Just around the hood.
On a break in the middle of your day?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Just thinking?
I think the best part of me working from home for myself is that I can just take off in the middle of the day and go for a walk.
I agree.
Nobody even cares.
Also, you can go to appointments for things like the DMV without not during the awful times, or you can go to Target not on a Saturday. You can go to Costco in the middle of the day if you want. That is a great privilege.
It is, and it's something. It's truly, there are a lot of perks to working for yourself, but that's the one that I cherish the most. That's the thing that stops me from even thinking about going and applying for another job.
Yeah,
is then I can't go walk whenever I feel like.
I love that. The reason we were talking about it is because I was saying I was at Target and I saw some lens wipes. Mm-hmm. Like I found myself. I was looking for something I don't normally look for because of moving into a house. I don't know. It's just a whole thing, setting up this whole household just for myself and realizing like today, I don't have like a garden tiller.
Sure.
I just didn't think about that.
Like a handheld one or a big rototiller?
Any of it. I don't have a thing except a little hoe to turn over some dirt and just going, okay. Anyway, it's kind of related to how I was standing in Target in an aisle I'm not usually in for whatever reason. And I went, giant box of lens wipes like Costco. And it was like a miracle. Like angels started singing. And I went, I didn't really know where I would look if I went to look for lens wipes, which is also funny because of Amazon. I don't have to look anywhere. But it never occurs to me. I literally forget to put things like lens wipes on my list. Well, Andrew, I want to tell you that is no longer, because now I have a half of a drawer in my kitchen full up of lens wipes.
You're not going to need to restock for years.
We'll see, because I just use them like an addict. And I can't look at my glasses. They're so clean. This is very unusual. I walk around with dirty glasses because, as we have discussed, I don't know how to wear glasses. It's all kind of new to me, and I'm not adapting very well. Holy cow, this is a game changer. So thanks for the life hack, just like reminding me that there's a thing called screen wipes, lens wipes. My Macintosh book professional screen is better because I wipe it every day. It's just so much easier. I can't tell you. It's just funny. I didn't know how to do that before, and now I do.
I'm glad you've got clean glass surfaces. There's
Totally
nothing better.
Different.
That's one of those things. It's like clearing off the countertops. When you've got clear lenses, everything just feels a little bit better.
Good golly, yeah. And I didn't even understand that. So, hooray for me and screen wipes, lens wipes, and all of it. Speaking of my Macintosh, why can't I say it? Because I'm pissed off about my computer. MacBook Pro.
You're speaking it as if you were typing on it.
I sure am. That's exactly good point. My brain has adapted to the weirdness of that. Andrew, the only thing I want to say about that is that it's not as fun. I don't want so much to sit with my computer because it has kind of betrayed me. And I can't quite count on it. And there's weird, I'm realizing like my compulsion to sit down and write a thing or design a thing or whatever, which is like kind of always fun for me. It is less fun on this machine.
I got to tell you that, I'm a big computer nerd. I work with computers all day, every day. And sometimes I fantasize about buying a new computer that's not a Mac. Which is totally unheard of. I've been an Apple person since I had my first Apple. I had one of those iPods with a very early click wheel with a spinning hard drive in it, like that kind of early iPod.
It's kind of the birthplace of our podcast was us saying, no, we refuse because the Apple ecosystem is better. No. We know it's expensive. But we're going to... People told me this at the beginning of our show, and before we bought my computer on Black Friday, people were saying, why are you doing that? For so much less money, you can get a thing. And, I have a son in engineering school, so he definitely needs an engineering computer. So he kind of retired his MacBook Air when he went to, math and science classes and loves it and has this high-powered kind of a gaming computer. Okay. That kills me that you're even thinking that, but I adapt to change. I have recently been wanting to ask you if you like your new phone, because I definitely have issues with also my iPhone.
I do, actually. I can comment on that.
It's not even new anymore. You're used to it now.
I've had a Google Pixel for a year, and I did it. I got a Google Pixel because I was kind of bored with the iPhone. I had the iPhone.
Oh, it was so old.
SE. So it was the newer internals in the iPhone 4 form factor.
Right.
Or 5. I don't know what iPhone it was. But
I
I loved that phone, and I kind of resisted getting a bigger phone. I didn't want the massive phone in my pockets, and I rejected the idea of getting one of the more expensive fancy phones because they sell it to you with the idea that, you're going to be able to do so much on this thing. And my core, the very being of myself says, spend less time on your phone, you fucking idiot. So I decided, if I want to spend less time on my phone and I'm totally averse to getting the fancy new $1,200 iPhone, what other options are there out there? And I found this Google phone, and it's great. It does everything I need to do, and it does most of the things exactly in the same way the iPhone does. Because as soon as you open any app that exists on Android and also exists on iPhone pretty much has the same layout. It's almost entirely the same.
Should I do that?
It's not going to make a difference. It's you can have an iPhone or you can have an Android, and at this point in the smartphone, evolution, they're pretty much the same.
But it's going to make a difference in my actual budget and perhaps in my personal amount of pain if I don't have to go to the Apple store.
Well, I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make in your budget.
Is that right?
Because I think even the new Google actually just unveiled they call it the 3A, and it's more of a budget conscious smartphone, and I think it's still $400 or $500, and that's the budget friendly one.
Right.
So if you get the full-blown one, you're still looking at $700 or $800. It's not much of a savings. But when I got mine, I got a sweet deal because they sometimes I think Google has a hard time selling hardware, and every now and then they run a crazy good deal. And I think I got mine for a couple $100 off, and then I also got a couple $100 when I turned in my iPhone. So it wound up. I think I upgraded my phone for like I don't know $200.
Okay, well, I got to think about it because my phone, for one thing, as all of my friends know, hi friends who are listening, who know for a fact, they just go, I think you're on mute. I think you've muted me because my proximity detector is broken. So when I put the phone up to my ear and I'm talking on the telephone, the tool for which it does not work, I mute myself just all the time. And people are going, okay, I think you're on mute.
You're generally an AppleCare person. Have you taken it in to get fixed?
My AppleCare ran out.
Oh, I see.
Something. So yes, I had an appointment to take it in, and I was convinced that I was probably just going to buy a new phone because I am intrigued by the better camera. I have also resisted getting a bigger phone because will it fit in my skirt pocket? I think it will be fine, and that camera is worth it. So then I just knew I was going to have to buy a new phone, and I got cold feet, and I said, suck it up, I'll have to mute my friends. And then I kind of made a conscious effort I want to talk less on the phone anyway. This is stupid. I don't want to. So anyway, so I got to think about that. But you're telling me you're thinking about getting, I was thinking about, like, do I have to get a Mac Mini with all the dongles, or do I need what's fun interacting with is an iPad? If I'm saying that my computer, sorry. If I'm not having fun interacting with my computer, well, an iPad seems fun and like right there and responsive. So maybe I need to do that. And there's all these new techniques I keep hearing about, technologies where you can, they all talk to each other so well. Golly, I don't know. And maybe I don't need anything except I still haven't purchased the little Bluetooth keyboard. And maybe that will make typing and writing more fun. I'm just so bummed out that I don't feel like I'm in a happy relationship with my Macintosh Book Professional.
That sucks.
It does suck.
I'm sorry.
Same with you? Like it?
So nobody cares about this, but
I know.
I've got, in addition to my MacBook
you've talked
Professional,
about it.
I've got a Linux desktop.
You back working on that thing?
And I last week I worked on that entirely. I didn't open up my MacBook except to record this podcast. And now I've come back to the MacBook as of yesterday, and it's fresh again. It's nice to have something else to switch to, because there are things that suck about both, and they're not the same things. So it's like you can go to one place and forget how miserable the MacBook makes you, and then come back to the MacBook and be happy again.
That's nice.
It is nice, but I also have an iPad, and there's
I think maybe that's what I need
for maybe just browsing the web and doing whatever it is you do that's not serious typing. The iPad's pretty good.
See, I think that my phone's okay for that. That's what you were saying, like not interacting your phone, putting your phone down. I actually use my phone like an iPad. That's why I'm thinking I should probably get a bigger phone and just use it.
Maybe.
Split the difference, because I do use apps that are only iOS. Is that right? I word swag, whatever. I do a lot of that kind of stuff. When I think the truth is that when I need to sit down, the other thing is that, like, even designing websites, you always have to be checking whether you're doing it that way or not, the mobile interface. So I sort of have this old school, I sit down at my computer and I work on the design of that website, and I sort of have to remind myself now, go check out how it's looking in the mobile interface, because that's how half your people are going to see it.
But I think that even today on in May of 2019, you still have trouble designing the website and building the website on mobile.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, you're right. Yep, okay, that's a good point. But anyway, I sort of use the phone for that stuff, so if I have a bigger one. And the truth is, what I am missing is the joy, the joy of sitting down with that MacBook Air when I first got her and writing my book and just feeling like I could trust it most of the time to do what I wanted to do, or making movies, or making, the design work and the book work. So I still want that interface with my computer versus my phone, and maybe the phone can take the place of what I'm feeling, that instinct to get an iPad.
So one thing I will tell you is right now, don't make any decisions because Apple's about to have their big event in June. They call it WWDC, Worldwide Developers Conference. And that's generally where they announce a lot of the changes they're making in their product lineup. So,
this is like year 3 on us saying, how long must I sing this song? Don't make a decision. I do want to say something about that. I have at least 2 listeners and then a sort of 2.5 because I think this is a person that doesn't listen to our podcast, but I've spoken to him offline about what we're talking about. But 2 people for sure have said to me, hey, by the way, thank you for saving me money because I thought I needed a new computer and I would just have 100% gone out and bought the new MacBook Pro. And now I'm questioning myself and sort of prepared to wait and make it last for a while until I figure out the next thing. We are doing so much good, Andrew.
I'm glad we saved someone some money.
And lives, probably.
I can't help but think that many tens of thousands of lives have been saved by us talking about our keyboard.
Right?
Which we've had feedback. You've had feedback and I've had feedback. Nobody cares about our MacBook woes.
Right. In answer to our first viewers, are you really going to talk about your computers for 20 minutes? Yeah, sorry. However, speaking in terms of saving lives, I want to tell you about 2 things that happened to me today. I had to do a lot of adulting in terms of Charles Schwab. Do you know who that guy is, Andrew?
I sure do. Did you talk to Chuck?
No, I guess. I don't know. I had to take some money in check form to a place where I had to pay for parking. And I went in, and it's all so great because it wasn't done correctly. And we have a lot to talk about offline. You can be involved in this conversation about IRAs versus Roth IRAs and taxes and exhaustion in my brain. But there's a lot of guys helping me there on the phone, my financial advisor, talking to the guy at Charles Schwab, because something is funny here, but maybe we can, oh my God, my eyes are rolling back in my head, but I'm staying cool, holding my center, trusting that they'll all take care of me, listening when they do me the courtesy of explaining to me, here's what happened. And I'm going, I don't even care. I would like you to tell me what to do. But it was just good knowing that I am in good hands and they take the time to explain to me what's going on so that I can be informed. And then right after that, my son George reached out and said, hey, Mom, do you have your summer tires back on your car? Because I didn't even think about it. I'm rolling around on my snow tires.
Sure. And those things are going to wear out faster.
Sure. And ruin the roads and and gas mileage, all of it, Andrew. It's time. It's May. Let's do it. And I have this sweet son who just on a Thursday afternoon reaches out and says, hey, Mom. And I went, I don't think so. I know. So I just feel really today like I'm being taken care of, as always, by the community. And it feels good because it's a lot of adulting. Where even are those tires, do you think?
What do you mean where? Oh, like you took them off your car and they were stored somewhere and you forgot where?
And there was something about it. I don't know. They might be back at the homestead. I don't know. So that's what I have to deal with next. And Charles Schwab, because I'm going to have to go back there because we're going to have to redo this. Oh, my God.
Do you have any questions about Charles Schwab that I can help answer? Do you care about the difference between an IRA and a Roth IRA?
I understand some things about taxes, but there's a thing right now in my life, seriously. It's not interesting to our viewers, and I certainly can't talk about numbers, but you might need to be involved because right now, today, a thing happened, and they did take taxes out, and I could put it into a Roth IRA, and normally you wouldn't do that, but right now I don't make enough money, and so I might do that, and I never have to pay taxes again. I don't know. Do I want to talk about it? I certainly do not. But if you want to talk to my finance guy and then my accountant guy, that would be fantastic. I don't really even want to be there, but I could be there. I could make you guys some salmon dip, talk about it, and then tell me by Monday morning what I need to do. That would be great.
Well, if you don't care,
nope.
Then I don't have any reason to talk about it.
Well, but part of your job, I think, is to remind me that money. I just think it's such a false construct, and I don't care. I think part of your job is to remind me that I do care.
You do care, but it also sounds like you've got good people fighting for
you.
In
good hands.
I know your financial advisor. And he's a great guy.
The truth is, I just think you might be interested. You know what I mean? I sort of like the idea of you guys maybe coming together, playing a little poker.
Meeting of the minds.
Yep, a little convention. Yep, right. And a little summit. I just think you might be interested because I think it's a little bit of an exciting puzzle right now where there's a prudent decision to make that could benefit me or not. You know what I mean? It's not super risky. It doesn't much matter, but it's kind of exciting to you guys.
Pretty soon, you and I and your financial advisor are going to have to sit down and talk about this vast influx of wealth that's coming in from this podcast.
I know.
We got to figure out what to do with all that and how much we're going to donate to the feeding Africa.
Yeah, and the homeless, Andrew. Because we owe them.
Did you do any Any follow-up on any research on
I did. I
homelessness?
looked at the Coalition for the Homeless. I think I sent you a link to that. Did you check that out?
You sure did. I did.
Did you check it out?
I skimmed it.
That's all right. Skimming is great. That's what's the beauty of, you know what I realized? I prefer to receive things like I've been looking for a lot of video lately for work.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it when there's a transcript because
Oh, yeah.
fine.
That's way better.
Right? Control F. And B, I can skim. And I don't, it's funny because the whole world revolves around video, but I almost always will opt out of video. What were you asking me about?
I was asking you about homelessness and the research you've done.
Coalition on the Homeless. Did you read some of the causes of homelessness and why mental health might be conflated with the issue?
No, I didn't read about that.
In New York City specifically, that's how they're handling homelessness in New York City.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got as far as when it says, proven solutions for homelessness,
Mm-hmm.
give them homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard that. And there are people who say that it's a thing. It costs much less to provide them with an actual home that they can live in than it does to, deal with all the problems that arise from them illegally camping somewhere.
And crime and, yep.
And that's like, oh, well, shoot. I guess I knew that. I've heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I said, gosh, you're an idiot, Andrew. And I stopped reading. So I don't know. I'm still interested in it. And I still, I don't know. I'd be interested to look again at that part about homelessness where it's like, just give them homes. Because I know there's a thing going on in Denver. I think it was in Globeville. They wanted to make a tiny home neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And give those to homeless people. And I don't know what the criteria was to get a tiny home or who was footing the bill for this or whatever. But I'd be interested to see. I still think that thing's very new, but I'm interested to see how it all shakes out.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk to you about what may very well be the exact opposite of homelessness.
Okay.
I want to talk to you about Flâneur Watches.
I know, right?
So you've heard about Flâneur, right? You remember them from last week?
I love that website.
So I don't even need to do the ad read, huh? I better.
You should do some. Well, yeah, you should do the ad read. That's what they're paying us for.
Of course. Flâneur of FleneurWatches.com. Flâneur is an independently owned and operated watch dealer based in Denver, Colorado. Specializing in rare and vintage mechanical watches, Flâneur prides itself in being the absolute best option to buy, sell, and trade watches. You will not find higher cash offers, lower consignment fees, or better customer service anywhere. We, Flâneur, promise to give you the time and care that your watch deserves, every time. Trust us with your watch buying and selling process, and we will treat you as family. Visit us online at www.fleneurwatches.com. That's FLANEUR watches.com. Flâneur Watches.
Well done once again, professional voiceover talent.
Thank you, Mrs. Filholm.
Any watch updates from you? Got any new watches or anything?
I've been looking hard at watches.
Have you?
And I can't decide what in the world I want. And it's one of those things, as anyone in this Flâneur watch community will tell you, as soon as you have one watch, you're going to want another one. It's like if you give a mouse a muffin. So I'm trying to figure out what that next watch is going to be for me. And I want it to be kind of a special watch. It'll be a treat yourself watch because I've been, I quit my job and I struck it out on my own. And I'm doing okay, well enough to consider buying a lifelong watch. And I'm sorting through all that, trying to figure out what I want. What I want.
What I want. What are you thinking? Wow, interesting. That seems big. Good golly.
I'm thinking that I'm going to have to get the Flâneur Watches input because those people over there are super knowledgeable about all of this, and they can help me out.
Okay, well, I can't wait for the follow-up on that because that seems like a big life decision. You're going to be a fancy boy now with a fancy adult watch. Golly, Andrew, moving on up.
That's right. I'm going to be able to tell the time all the time.
And you're going to go to FleneurWatches.com?
Sure am.
That's F as in Foxtrot, L as in Lima, A as in Alpha, N as in November, E like Echo, U like Uniform, R like Romeo, watches.com.
Very good, Mrs. Filholm.
I love the NATO alphabet, though.
You might consider becoming a pilot. They get to use the NATO alphabet every damn day.
I don't know. I never wanted to be a pilot.
I do. I think about that almost every day.
Swim around in the water. You do think about it every day. You going to do it?
I would love
First,
to.
you have to learn how to swim. Then you have to get an adult watch. You have so much on your plate. I feel the same way. Hey, you didn't even notice I showed you some pottery that I'm painting over there on the other side of the curtain, as they would say at the Wizard of Oz. Did you see what I was painting there? Bisqued ware. I fired a kiln.
I saw that on Instagram. You had your first kiln firing.
It was
Thanks to a lot of people. There were a lot of people involved in that first kiln firing that made it all happen.
There really were. Next week, Augie's coming back to actually rebuild a new fence for me.
He's coming back next week?
Next week.
It's that time again?
It is again. It was quick. He's been on an organic farm in France, and he's going to come back, and I did check in with him. Do you want to build my fence? So George reminds me of my snow tire change out and will help me make that appointment. And Augie's coming and building my fence. We started with my 2 boys in this podcast, and it's a good episode about those 2 boys. Can't wait for my new fence. There's a guy back there this afternoon. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Zombies in the alley.
Yeah, you know what I do now, though? I open the garage door at any time of day or night when I have to take something out, and I just think, I'm just prepared. You know what I mean? That's the cool thing about it, is just like to be prepared to say to anyone there, hey, or move along, or to shut the door. What freaked me out a couple of weeks ago was not expecting it. To open my garage door and see somebody poking through my garbage. It was like, So now I just feel like I'm savvy.
Yeah, you got to always act like someone's there. And a while ago, you talked about going into your basement, not your basement, your crawl space.
I did it again.
And you alerted the animals. You just called down the hole, the entryway into the crawl space, and you said, hey, I'm coming down there. You might have to do the same thing when you open your garage door.
That's what a exactamundo, as the fawns would say.
If you're out there, I'm coming out. Please just make yourself scarce. Get out of here.
Really what I thought of as I was opening my garage door in the past couple of days going, that's literally what I'm doing, is announcing my arrival. I did have to go back down into the crawl space. On Mother's Day, I didn't have to. I wanted to make sure that I just wanted to. I started to question, do I like it down here? And I went in, and it was nighttime and dark, and I just wanted to make sure that there were no drips from the toilet. As we discussed, we put in the new toilet a couple of weeks ago, and that was just a follow-up, just make sure it's secure. Everything's good. Everything's great. And then I did wonder, do I like it in the crawl space? Because I keep coming down here.
You must. You must. Down there with all those little underground creatures.
There don't seem to be any creatures.
I don't know. I think there's at least one underground creature in there.
Just me running underground with the moles, digging holes, as Harvey Danger says. Back to that same song. What else do we have, Andrew? I just feel like there's 1,000. I wanted to talk to you about what I think I learned from playing in an orchestra, but maybe not today. That's on my list.
I got to ask you, one of the more emotional things we've talked about last week, the shooting that happened near us in Denver. And I wondered, I mean, you were emotional about it when we were talking about it, and then you've had a week to process.
Yep, and that's the truth. I know nothing about the homelessness big problem. I don't know that I'm a big, complex thinker, problem solver. I don't know much about that. I don't know anything about the mushrooms thing. And I feel like I don't know much about the school shooting thing in a big way. And I feel that it is hard to quiet. I talked about this a little bit last week, to quiet the din of all of the rhetoric about gun control and mental illness and safety. And man, it just feels loud. I talked about it like the media is all there and there's a lot of words going around, but it's so noisy that I don't know what to make of it, and my instinct is to shut it off. But yeah, in the past week, it has occurred to me that if we rise above that din, or I don't know, turn it down, and that doesn't mean don't think about those things. School security is a really big issue. We got to deal with it. And mental health is a really big issue. We got to deal with it. But if we turn that noise down and just assume for a minute that we let other people ponder that. I'm not an expert. Here's what I do know, and here's my hot take. We got to watch our kids more. Parents and the community need to be more vigilant. As you know, that is the subject of my book. My book is called Beyond Mama Bear, and the thesis and the occasion was while I was parenting my kids, and man, for us, it felt like life got really thrown off course when they turned into teenagers. I'm going to talk a lot now. Is that okay? Do you want to ask me some questions and leave me? I just sort of went off. Do you have a deeper question?
You keep going. And then if you get hung up on something, I'll just probe.
Oh, because it's my manifesto for real, though.
This is the one place. neither you nor I have much. We don't have credentials to talk about a lot of things, but you actually wrote the book on this.
I wrote the book on this. So what happened is that I was noticing that our kids were disrupting our family life, and it was happening before they were 13. So I kind of knew to be prepared, like many of us do, because we were all teenagers. We know it's going to be rough. The teenage years are rough. Teenagers suck. But man, sometimes well before they turn 13, and in this, it's a whole thing. In this country, that's actually kind of scientifically true. Their puberty is happening earlier and earlier for a whole bunch of other reasons that I want to let other people address. So it's surprising to parents and sometimes that their kids start to turn on them and family life just gets really kind of rocky and ugly and disorienting. And I noticed this tendency even amongst the parents who were the most, like almost helicoptery when our kids were little. Very vigilant parents, like worried about more things than I was worried about. At about middle school or late middle school and in high school, I noticed these parents, especially amongst my students, they kind of checked out. Their kids started freaking them out. It gets hard. So as my own kids were doing that, it was getting hard. It felt personal. It felt emotional. It felt like what is going on with my family and these children that I once loved and knew. I realized I had before me a living laboratory. I had my classroom. I had all of you kids there, and some of you seemed to be doing really, really well, and others were struggling. And I got to know teenagers in real and raw ways and their parents in many cases. And you went to a pretty small and pretty community-driven high school. So we were, at that particular school, there was a lot of opportunity to know parents. Mm-hmm. And I kind of noticed what I thought, I want to know what parents like yours are doing, Andrew.
They're showing us Seinfeld and making us listen to the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. And what else?
You covered that in the last episode.
But here's the other thing that I also that I haven't covered yet. To a person, those of you whom I truly admired and wanted to know how it worked, because I tell you what, there were other kids who I thought had it all together. Probably like Lisa Lane appeared to the world at age 17. And you go, oh, okay, no, that kid is broken also, or that kid goes off and starts rebelling at a later age, Mm-hmm. So those of you that I really thought, okay, something here is not broken particularly. To a person, each one of you said, my parents were pretty darn strict. It wasn't worth going out and breaking all the rules and rebelling because my parents made it harder. They just would make it difficult for me. They made it ugly. They watched me. They cared about what I was doing. And so anyway, that was the impetus of my book. And I do think it's a long story and you should buy my book. But I do think that is one thing that all of us as parents and educators and people, any of us who care about the young people, when young kids when you see them on the news and in the courtrooms, those kids often look pretty lost. Something's going on there. And somehow, maybe we're not paying attention or listening to them. So the thesis of my book is that we need to know what's going on and stay vigilant. Mama Bear hibernates. When her kids get kind of capable and turn into adolescence and kind of seem like they can do the laundry and make themselves some chicken nuggets, she goes to sleep. She takes a break. And that's where I went. That was the metaphor I used to describe it and went, I need a new role model beyond Mama Bear because we all get it. When our kids are little, we say like, that was my Mama Bear instinct. I came to their rescue. I heard them crying in the middle of the night. I rushed to the rescue of my kid. I defended my kid. Mama Bear. But then Mama Bear goes to sleep. So we need new role models. And that's what my book is about. And they are split up into the role models who help us know what's going on with our kids, getting in there, seeing what's going on in their lives, protecting them if and only if they are in real and present danger. Sometimes as a parent or someone who loves a young person, you got to swoop in and protect them from a lot of things. There's a lot of predators out there. And can we honor their journey toward adulthood? Go ahead.
That's the other half of it is knowing when they're in real and present danger and knowing when there's a learning moment to be had by not stepping in.
That's right. And it's a fine, fine line. The title of my book is Beyond Mama Bear, How to Survive the, The Balancing Act.
The Balancing Act of Raising Teenagers.
What's the title of my book? The Balancing Act, because it is. And I say that like every minute can be a balancing act. What works for one kid doesn't work for the other kid. The way this kid is rebelling is different than his brother. The way that she seems fine, but she's really broken inside. There is such a fine line, and there is this fine line between, like I mentioned earlier, helicopter parents. Right now I'm noticing somebody, I need to look this up, called it steamroller parenting, where we want to pave the way for our kids so that they have no actual pain or strife, and thereby we don't empower them with any kind of tools for figuring out what to do when life is hard. Yep. And those practices begin when you're little, learning how to read, and those practices continue in high school when we're making you do your papers. I mean, Andrew, you did your homework. You know what I mean? You were expected to get good grades, and you did. That's partly who you are. But it might not have gone so well for you at home if you weren't doing that.
No, there were definitely expectations for me. And I felt personally, I felt a ton of pressure to meet those expectations, not in a bad way, but I was probably a little bit unique in the fact that, not unique, I had a tremendous amount of guilt if I didn't do what was expected of me. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I still have that same amount of guilt. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it serves me well, and sometimes it makes me feel awful. Mm-hmm. But that's something that's special to me. And I think that that particular thing that I have made my parents react in a different way than if they were talking to my brother, who is just coded differently than I am. Mm-hmm. And there's a message in that book, which is, figure out what you're dealing with, know them, right, so that you can figure out the best possible approach to helping them individually.
To that particular kid. And that's the third part, is can you honor their particular journey toward adulthood? I tell the story of friends of ours who were raising their 5th child. They had 4 grown children who were healthy and productive members of society. And the kid's a sophomore in high school, the 5th kid, and the mom looks at me and says, "Lisa, it's like I've never done this before." Like, he is rebelling in brand new ways. Each one of them is so special and unique. My own father used to say that it was a teenager's job to figure out precisely, exactly, specifically what would bug his parents the most and do that, which to some degree explains kids of super conservative families becoming dropouts and hippies, and parents of super liberal,
dyeing their hair pink and going to Berkeley,
and parents of kids of super kind of liberal academic parents, kids of those parents going and joining the military. I mean, seriously, like, sometimes we just literally are compelled to do the opposite of what our parents need. One of the tasks of adolescence is to differentiate between you and your parents. And you are right. Some kids are coded differently, and or their experience is different, and they need to do that in a bolder, broader way than other kids, or in a different way. And that's the thing that's so disorienting for parents. Parents who have 2 perfect children can have a horrible experience with the 3rd, and they are just gobsmacked by it. That's kind of the impetus for my book, is, as I said, me looking around and going, what the hell is going on here? And then realizing, this is... One of the ways I explained it to somebody first that made me realize I was kind of onto something, she was saying to me, like a professional social worker, somebody who kind of gets adolescent development theoretically, was saying, my son has lost 4 jackets this year. 4 freaking jackets. And I went, wait, is he about 12? And she says, yes. I said, well, that's one of the things. He's turning. She went, really? Are you kidding me? And it was somehow comforting. That's part of my book, is to go, this is the disruption we were expecting. It just looks different and is designed to be more painful in some cases than we can ever expect. Of course, not every kid blows shit up like that and is a difficult adolescent. I have in the back of my mind the idea that you don't really earn your parenting card until someone punches a hole in the drywall. Might be you. Might be the parent. But there's a little bit of that. And I am a little bit skeptical of people whose kids seem to have gone through a perfect adolescence with no rebellion, whatever. I don't buy it. Even you had your rebellion and your compulsion to do stupid, reckless shit. We've talked a little bit about it.
We've talked a little bit about that. But I think my rebellion was a little bit later. I had to go get drunk in Budapest. Which didn't happen until I was, 20 years old. You
were 20. You were almost 21. And that's part of the deal.
Which is a lot older than 12.
Correct. And that's part of my thing, is our job is to protect them. Oh, God. I mean, there's so much to talk about this. Really, maybe we should make a whole podcast about my book. But I think that it is our job to protect their brains while they are young, because their brains are seriously just sponges. Their brains are forming. And I say teenagers are like toddlers, and it's really true in many ways. I want to tell you something else. I was looking up for talking about this and because I'm writing a new article about it. What's the definition of mental illness?
Mm-hmm.
Teenagers are mentally ill. By definition.
What's the definition?
Well, all right. So this one is from the government. And then I also looked it up on like some pretty, what is this? The psychiatry, what's the thing? Anyway, these are signs of mental illness. Eating or sleeping too much or too little. Literally the jobs of a teenager, right? For real. Their hormones are changing. They are growing at unprecedented rates. That's one of the signs is like if your kid suddenly starts to eat you out of house or home, holy crap, you might have a teenager on the horizon even if it's before she turned 13. And sleeping, are you kidding? They really do get this like a coma of they're growing. They're doing so much work in their brains, pulling away from people and usual activities. That's one of the things I say. If your kid suddenly hates horseback riding or swimming or dance or all of the things that he or she has been passionate about all their lives, that's a teenager. It's okay, I'm not kidding. I'm reading right now, may I remind you, about what it is to be mentally ill. Having low or no energy, that can happen with a teenager. They can also cycle into lots of energy. Feeling numb or like nothing matters.
Mm-hmm.
Have you witnessed?
That's just part of being a teenager.
Bro,
I remember that.
Right? Oh, do you remember it in your own brain?
I sure do.
You're so cute. Tell me about it.
I don't remember it that well.
All right,
I mean, everyone has that feeling, right?
Really? But
you remember it.
Oh, my God. And I have watched it over and over again, like lovely nieces and nephews. And, you know how I love kids. And these kids who love me and we get along and everything's great. And then suddenly at about but starting at sometimes age 10, including one of my own kids, just suddenly everything is like, whatever. I don't care. It's a thing. So that's how you know you have a teenager. It's a sign of mental illness. Oh my God, it's so sad. Having unexplained aches and pains. You literally have growing pains sometimes during adolescence. Feeling helpless or hopeless. Mm-hmm. Smoking, drinking, or using drugs more than usual, perhaps for the first time in your life because you're trying to seek some solace and also you're reckless. Feeling unusually confused, forgetful, on edge, angry, upset, worried, or scared. That's adolescence. This is comical. It's literally the definition of mental illness. Yelling or fighting with family or friends. Mm-hmm. It goes on, Andrew. Oh my God, experiencing some severe mood swings. Hormones equal mental illness. I'm being jokey about it. But what I come to is like, we've got to understand when we're talking about school shootings and what is gun control and what is mental illness and how much. You gotta kind of act, I'm begging you, parents, like teenagers are A, very similar to toddlers, B, mentally ill by definition because they are forming, and C, super vulnerable. And there are predators out there sometimes trying to, and sometimes just by default. There are predators threatening our children's healthy development. And we as parents, it is so tempting to go to sleep because they suck and they hurt our feelings and they are designed to hurt our feelings. We know our job is to put up boundaries for them. We know it. We get it. And we know they're going to rebel. But when you are in it, Andrew, someday I will be there for you with your daughters. You can't believe the creativity and energy with which they rebel. Our job is to put up boundaries, and their job is to throw tomatoes at us while we're doing it. We are dealing with people who are, I'm just seriously making a case that they're kind of technically mentally ill. They are prone to crawling out of windows in the middle of the night, right? Sneaking shit out of the liquor cabinet, inventing new personalities every day, sneaking off on their way to school to like put on the makeup that mom doesn't allow or hike up my skirt. They're actually trying to destroy us. And that's the jokey part of it. It's not funny. It's horrible and actually very painful. And I like to tell people when I'm speaking about this, you are not alone and you are not crazy if you feel like your family is falling apart. Because I felt alone and I felt like people couldn't help me with my own kids until I realized I got all of your parents. I got all of these people in front of me in my laboratory of the high school, and I did my research. And what I learned was that we got to stay vigilant. We got to know what's going on. These new role models that I invented help us know how to do that. Sometimes we send in spies. Sometimes you are a spy, Andrew.
I sure am.
Yeah. And sometimes the guitar teacher is a spy who has promised me, I will let you know if your kid is really in serious trouble on social media in a way that you're not seeing, right? So we got to know what's going on. And sometimes we got to protect them, which means swooping in. And sometimes it means getting in their face. And sometimes it means doing really very painful things and giving them consequences. And then all the way around, we have to honor their unique journey. It's very complicated, but I want to talk more about that, I think, in terms of what we can do about violence amongst our youth. And here's the other sad thing. It's sad and also kind of practical. Since the beginning of recorded time, when we have collected data, young men in particular, they die at a higher rate during adolescence. They're reckless.
I've heard that. That's a thing.
Stupid. It's in my book, which you have read and edited.
No wonder I've heard it.
They are stupid and reckless and designed. There are more men born during those years than women, like over the course of history. Kind of, one thinks, to balance it out so that enough of them are left to produce at the end of adolescence. I'm not kidding. And that is not. It's somehow comforting. They are designed to really rebel and be reckless, and they die at a faster rate. So do we go school shootings and violence? We kind of get hysterical, like, oh my God, it's worse than ever. I don't know if it is.
I don't know if it is either. And it's that's anecdotally true. Of all the people I know who have died young, near as I can tell, I think almost all of them are men.
Isn't that funny? It's not all. Certainly it's not all. But no, at a higher rate. And like I said, women also. But like that's just funny to look. They call, oh my gosh, also in the field that I'm working in now for my day job, there's also the thing called the youth bulge, which is also funny because I always feel so like, youth bulge? Feels like a dick joke. But in countries where historically over time, in any country in the world where there is a population expansion, when that population, especially if it's young males, when they become adolescents, especially if they are educated, by the way, and especially if there are fewer jobs available for them, which naturally happens in a country because suddenly we have this bulge of population who needs a job, violence ensues. Seriously, civil war ensues. Young, angry men without jobs.
And they kill each other.
There's a violent
put everything
streak
back in balance. It's weird. You know, if you look at humanity from the big picture, long haul thing, the equilibrium is really fascinating.
Gaia hypothesis, if you want to go there.
What's the Gaia hypothesis?
Put it in show notes, Andrews. That's a totally different topic. It's just the idea that creation sustains itself and none of us individuals matters. So, right. So that is like, to me, it's important to kind of take it back to that scientific perspective and say, listen, our young people are freaking stupid and reckless and bound to destroy themselves.
And you're not saying it's okay that young males kill each other.
No, but and the truth is, so then I go, okay, societally, I don't know what to do about that because I'm not a sociologist. I'm not I'm not in development and program management and all of that. I don't have the big picture. What I can say is one-on-one for our own children. How can we protect them? I don't know exactly, but I'm telling you, did I mention this, the Aurora Police Chief?
No, what about him?
The chief of police in Aurora, Colorado, within a week of the school shooting that we're talking about, there was other violence going on. It's men are being shot. Anyway, he came on the news and pleaded with parents and the community. We have got to know what's going on with our young people. And he was kind of saying, this is not, whatever's going on, the violence amongst our youth right now, it may be taking a different shape, is my point, than it has in the past. But I think the tendency is for youth to be violent and destroy themselves. What seems hysterical about it now is they're also hurting other people, and we have random shootings, and that doesn't make anybody feel safe, right? So this chief of police is saying, we got to watch our young people. We got to know what they're doing. We're not watching them. And that's the first tenet of my book is somehow we go to sleep on the job.
It's the no part of the no, protect, and honor.
That's the no part. Well, it's all of it. You got to stay vigilant. Sometimes honoring them as being vigilant. Sometimes protecting them as being vigilant is the overriding, I would say, concept, Andrew. But right, and we got to know where they are. And he was literally saying that, like, we got to know where they are and what they're doing. And I think he even said who they're hanging out with. And that's one of the role models, like you got to get in there and know what's going on with your kids. Mm-hmm. So that's my soapbox. And it is kind of a hot take, but yeah, I don't know, Andrew. The funny thing is how much you helped me, not only writing that book, but as an example, and your parents and the other kids that I talked to. I mean, really, I did hundreds of interviews with teenagers, former teenagers, their parents. I mean, I had all of those parent-teacher conferences. And that was my research, but it was all really with this selfish goal of like, how can I fix this for my kids? How can I help my kids survive adolescence? And it was a rough and tumble road, but we're getting there.
We sure are, Mrs.
We're getting
Filholm.
there. We're getting there. Yeah. That's hilarious.
You know what that was?
Yeah?
That's some ruckus.
I mean, I really feel like it was. Teenagers are toddlers and mentally ill.
That's all you need to know.
Well, thanks, Andrew. Thanks for letting me talk a lot.
No problem. I enjoyed listening, Mrs. Filholm.
Well, thanks. We brought the ruckus. There you go.
Goodbye, Mrs. Filholm.
Goodbye, Andrew.